put you to sleep.
In what is one of the most intriguing fights of the year at heavyweight, we have young 23-year-old Daniel Dubois, the presumptive heir apparent to the heavyweight crown, and his opponent, 35-year-old Joe Joyce, a former decorated amateur that turned pro in his early 30s. It has been a fight on the schedule for much of 2020, but pushed back multiple times due to COVID. But November 28, many questions we have about these fighters and this fight will be answered. Part of the intrigue with this fight is many see it coming down to what Joe Joyce is and isn't able to do in the ring. And myself, I've been back and forth on certain points many times about how this one plays out. But what we do know in respect of Dubois, he's an improving fighter. He's come a long way since a one-paced and uninspiring effort against Kevin Johnson in 2018, where he really couldn't adapt through the fight to break down and get the veteran out of there, and that fight being the only one of his career to go the distance. Since then, Dubois has looked devastating in certain fights, although the level of the opposition has been mixed. Sure, there were tests passed against Razvan Kajanu and Nathan Gorman. In the latter, he showed how far his jab had come, controlling Gorman with it before knocking him out in 5 rounds. But there have also been a slurry of epic mismatches since then: Tete, Fujimoto and Snyder's. Those last 3 fights have not really shown us much apart from the fact that Dubois is a devastating puncher against limited opposition. So how far has he evolved since the Gorman win? It's unclear. Although we know this much: Dubois has a very accurate and powerful jab. His straight right hand is a serious weapon. His combination punching has been on the improve, and he can dig to the body, especially with a left hook, with authority. That punch in particular is going to be, I believe, a major asset for Dubois against Joe Joyce. And it could be easy for Dubois to go headhunting against the former Olympic silver medalist, given how open he can be. He can be hit to the head and often, but I am picking that Dubois will be investing to the body early, and especially because Joyce has shown vulnerability there before, being hurt badly to the body in the opening round against Bryant Jennings, without Jennings either realizing the extent of it or unable to capitalize on it. And that's one thing Dubois won't have an issue doing. When he smells blood, he goes in for the kill. He has proven to be a clinical finisher with a ruthless streak. So while it appears straightforward what Dubois should be looking to do, jab, straight punches, combinations, body shots, will he be allowed to do it? Joe Joyce in recent fights, he's basically come forward throwing volume. That volume has been his defense. He's had little regard of what is coming back at him. His defense at times has been to block shots literally with his face. A good example was the Berman-Stavern fight, where that faded husk of a husk in Stavern, in the course of being beaten up over several rounds, was still able to catch Joyce with quite a few looping shots. And if Joyce carries that level of defense into this fight, he's going to get caught often, and likely to his detriment. I don't see a come forward, duke it out style necessarily working well early in this fight. In fact, Dubois would likely welcome Joyce being a target right in front of him, giving Dubois opportunities to let his straight punches go. And I think the Nathan Gorman fight should serve as a cautionary tale. Gorman tried to go toe-to-toe with Dubois. He lost the battle of the jabs and was beaten up over 5 rounds. I've seen some say that proved Dubois could deal with the mover, but that's not what I saw, because Gorman went away from his movement to skills and he tried to bang it out with Dubois and failed miserably. While Dubois is always dangerous, he's going to be his most dangerous when he's fresh in the opening rounds. So for me, I think we are going to see Joyce harken back to some of his earlier pro fights that he had with trainer Ishmael Salas, who he's only recently linked back up with, and I think we will see some movement. And I'm not saying that all of a sudden Joyce is going to show us this masterful back foot game, but I do think he is going to be using the ring in the first few rounds, working at times from the outside, popping the jab, long right hands, and at times trying to make Dubois cut off the ring, follow him around, make Dubois burn up some energy. Dubois is a fighter who typically dictates the rhythm and pace of a fight, so Joyce has to really push him out of his comfort zone somehow. We really haven't seen how he deals with someone who is using movement, using the ring. And if Joyce eats a few shots, well, he may naturally just have to get on his bike for a reprieve to recover. And because Joyce's defense isn't great, he can't just be standing stationary in one spot, eating punches like Tic Tacs. Can't afford to do that. And the longer the fight goes, the more opportunity Joyce has to try break down Daniel Dubois, tire him out, try gas him out, drag him into deeper waters where he really hasn't gone before. And while he went the distance with Johnson, the American, basically the whole night, was shelled up, barely threw any punches back at him. Joyce will be looking to land and land often. And while he doesn't have the same sort of one-punch power that Daniel Dubois has, his clubbing shots still hurt. Even if they're landing on shoulders, arms, etc., it's going to take a toll. He'll be looking to try grind Dubois down over several rounds. But the reverse is also true, which is why Joyce's tactics have to be on point. He has to be more defensively responsible, because if he's not, he will get knocked out. But if he can weather the early rounds and start to have some success, he is a shot to win the fight. Currently, Daniel Dubois hasn't had a Bryant Jennings type fight like Joyce has, although I have no doubt that Daniel Dubois would beat Bryant Jennings, likely by a stoppage. And Dubois himself, when quizzed about not having a middle fight as it were, said that this fight with Joe Joyce was his middle fight. And he might be right. This could end up being the right fight at the right time for him and his development. Frank Warren, his promoter, who is known for building heavyweights the right way, is confident that this fight is Dubois' fight. And many of the questions I have, no doubt you have. How good is Dubois' chin? How will he fare against someone who's throwing back at him, has the ability to hit him, potentially hurt him? Does Dubois, who's a muscle-bound guy, have a gas tank to go 12 rounds if that is required? How's he going to look in the second half of a fight if he has had to expend some energy in the first half? And this is why I like this fight, because it has the potential to answer many of these questions. But also, some of the questions and doubts that people have about Joe Joyce, many of which I raised earlier, they will also be answered. Is he actually better than some people think? Because so far in his career, even though he has at times looked a little slow and plodding, he's been extremely effective. And because of the known unknowns about this fight, that's why I've been going back and forth in my mind about how this one plays out. But my final pick, drawing a line in the sand here, Daniel Dubois and by stoppage. While I think Joe Joyce will implement a strategy that will utilize some movement, especially early, his defense will at some point, I think it will let him down. He'll take one too many big shots, and that will allow Daniel Dubois to tee off on him for a finish at some point. But make no mistake, this is a proper fight, and whoever wins, and I think Joyce can win, whoever wins will deserve a lot of credit. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.